Okay, great.
Hey, we're live.
There we are. We are live. Let's get the notification.
Let's see
if I can.
There's the
repost.
tweet.
There it is. Let me
Yep.
do the quote. There we go.
Yepper. Howdy, everybody.
Hey there. Hey there.
It's
hey
all
there, hey
happening.
There. Reposting. Partner employee post 2 free drinks in the Black Keys. And thanks to Shopify. Here we go. Okay, great.
Yep.
Awesome.
Sweet.
All right.
I'm ready to record if you are.
I am ready to record.
All right. I'm going to put that right there. And here we go. I think. Yeah, sure. We'll see if it works. Business Brain, episode 533 for Wednesday, March 20th, National SBDC Day. That's Small Business Development Center Day 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take an idea or six, we dissect it, we analyze it, we peruse our reactions to it so that we can each tune our business brains every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include Shopify.com/businessbrain, where you can go and sign up for a $1 per month trial period, and GoSquaredAway.com/contact. Squared Away empowers highly educated military spouses to become your remote executive assistants. We'll talk more about both of those in a little bit. For now, back here from South by Southwest last week. Now here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And in sunny California, I'm Shannon Jean. And I love both those sponsors because Shopify rocks. It's amazing. All of us have used them at one time or another. And everybody needs an executive assistant. It'll change your life. There's the old saying, you want to double your income? Get an assistant.
Get an assistant.
So true. So happy to have you back, Dave.
I'm happy to be back. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, it was a great trip. I have lots of things to share.
Yeah,
We've got some things I think in Friday's episode, and then probably something next week too. There's always lessons.
Yes,
always
make sure you stick around for Casual Friday. So the way we do this is we live stream this every week up on all these various platforms: X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then we cut the show in half, and we do a Wednesday podcast and a Friday podcast. So we're glad to have you here. Certainly, X is promoting the show more because we have more listeners than we typically have, which I love.
Yep.
And before we get into the kind of meat of this, I did a post this morning about the Reddit CEOs. Total compensation. And I know how the media likes to play this trick. They say, this guy's getting paid $193 million. Not really, but he's getting paid about $500,000. And the rest is based on how Reddit does. They're getting ready to go public, I guess. And as part of this roadshow and all the paperwork for going public, all the unpaid moderators that actually make the site work are up in arms a bit that when they see that $193 million possible payday. And I just thought it was interesting, so I want to talk about unpaid people. There's a spider on my screen, so I got to get it out of there.
That's bonus.
Unpaid.
An extra co-host today.
Yes, extra protein. There he is. I hope he's not under my
screen. We don't eat our co-host, Shannon. We're both going to make an agreement here.
Okay, good. But, I've used unpaid workers. We had unpaid interns.
Yeah.
We've done some episodes about it. It was awesome for them. It was great for us. They were from a technical school, and they needed, actual real-life credit as they were growing up. And we tried to work really hard to make it beneficial for them. I don't know. There's a lot of people, and I posted that. When I posted this morning, the number of folks are like, I don't believe in using unpaid, people at their business. And, so I responded to the school wouldn't allow us to pay them.
Yes.
Not to justify that my way, because I know they got a lot out of it. But what's your thoughts on the whole unpaid
I just came back. I just came back from South by Southwest, where they, most of the people that work at the actual festival during the week of South by Southwest are volunteers. Now, they are paid in trade. And I don't know the exact structure, but I know that you work a certain number of hours and you qualify for, one type of badge.
I got it.
And you work more hours and you qualify for a different type of badge. And then the badge, of course, gets you in to other events at South by Southwest.
So the more they do, the more exposure they get and to experience the bands and the speakers and all
the
that
bands
stuff.
and the movies and the speakers
cool.
and all that stuff. So it's a trade. They aren't, to call them volunteers is probably technically inaccurate. But it is always interesting to me how, the staff of South by Southwest celebrates the volunteers. And that part, of course, I get. They're I don't know how they would do the festival without them. Every time they celebrate the volunteers, the room full of people, most of whom, I presume, paid cash money for their tickets.
Yep.
And, not insignificant cash money for their badges. I think you could pay $1,500 for a platinum badge. They're not cheap. Maybe not quite that much, but over 1,000. Sure. Yeah. They applaud these people, invented sliced bread for the first time. So, and it's just interesting to me that there's this dynamic. I think it's great that these people are appreciated, but it's just I don't know that anybody really thinks about it. But
I wonder.
But
I expect
everybody seems okay with it.
Yeah.
I've talked to volunteers.
Yep.
They are stoked to be able to do it. They like the deal. Yep. So it's not like they're being exploited or
no, I agree. And I would argue
that.
that the moderators on Reddit have some power over content, what shows up.
I think we saw that last year.
Yes. When what was it? I forget the community that went dark or whatever. Oh yeah, when
all the communities went dark.
That's right, that's right. So it's a fascinating discussion. I'd love to learn more. Maybe there's a whole episode in it if we could get some feedback from you at your business, feedback@businessbrain.show. Tell us if you're using or have ever used unpaid workers and how you structured it and how you made it beneficial. But it wouldn't surprise me to read another article soon about Reddit moderators unionizing.
All right, folks, look, on this show, we take entrepreneurial puzzles and make them into pieces of cake, right? And speaking of easy choices, when you're on a plane, window seat or middle seat? Well, obviously, I'm going to take the aisle because I'm a control freak. And when it comes to selling online, there's an equally obvious pick. Our sponsor, Shopify. Imagine if your business journey was a game. Shopify is that power-up which helps you skip ahead to the good parts. From launching your online shop to unlocking the, oh my gosh, we need a bigger warehouse level, Shopify is your sidekick every step of the way. Selling shipping supplies or spreading the word about your productivity hacks, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. It's like having a Swiss Army knife for your business, but instead of a tiny, barely useful saw, you get an all-in-one e-commerce platform and an in-person POS that actually does the job. And here's where it gets really cool. Shopify turns window shoppers into buyers with a checkout that's smoother than your morning latte. Plus, with Shopify Magic, you've got an AI-powered assistant that's like having a marketing wizard in your pocket. Who needs a rabbit out of a hat when you have Shopify? With Shopify powering 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. and backing global success stories like Allbirds and Rothy's, it's not just a platform, it's a launch pad for success. And with their award-winning support, you're never flying solo. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/businessbrain, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/businessbrain now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/businessbrain, and our thanks to Shopify for sponsoring this episode. All right, those days when your to-do list is longer than a coffee shop's drink menu, and you're sitting there wondering if you need to clone yourself to tackle it all? Well, before you look into mad science, let me introduce you to a more practical solution. Our sponsor, Squared Away. Squared Away is like having a team of business ninjas at your disposal, except instead of throwing stars, they wield calendars, spreadsheets, and email inboxes. They're remote executive assistants who can leap tall to-do lists in a single bound thanks to being highly educated military spouses. Talk about trustworthiness and readiness for any challenge. Whether it's turning the chaos of event planning into a well-oiled machine, transforming bookkeeping from a nightmare into a dream, or even the Herculean task of booking a plane flight for your adventurous pooch, Squared Away has your back. And yes, they can even make a virtual baby shower feel like the social event of the season. So if you're ready to ditch the overwhelm and embrace the calm of well-managed tasks, contact Squared Away today to see how they can support your business. Just go to GoSquaredAway.com/contact. That's GoSquaredAway.com/contact. Unleash the power of productivity today. And our thanks to Squared Away for sponsoring this episode. All right. We were going to talk about this last week, and then we had a weird scheduling thing, and it didn't happen. But we talked 2 weeks ago about partners and compensation and all of that stuff.
That's right.
And a topic kind of came up that I wanted to take a little bit more time to dig into. And that is, beware the partner who actually is, or at least wants to be, an employee.
That's beware with capital B.
Yes. All capital and EWAR and E as well. Because there's a lot of people out there who love whatever their idea is of being a business owner. And and they're going to be right about some things. Maybe
Sure.
The idea of having some flexibility, the idea of having, I'll say, unlimited upside. It's not actually unlimited, but it's, not like
Exponential opportunity.
Opportunity, all of those things.
Yeah.
The control, and it might not be all of those things. It might be some, one or more of those things. But they also want the safety, the comfort of a salary, or or a job. Sometimes
mutually exclusive ideas, right?
Yes.
And I've been there before, because the idea of starting a business and being a swashbuckling entrepreneur, it's so darn sexy from the outside.
Yeah,
right?
from the outside.
From the outside.
Yes.
And magazines promote it. Websites are heroes.
The American dream, Shannon.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos started on a door and this and all these guys. And it does sound, we celebrate the end state instead of recognizing the struggle, the years
grind.
and years, the grind. Yeah, the grind. And so, and I do it too. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Oh, I've lived it as well, and I do it because it's way more satisfying to talk about the successes than it is.
Sure.
Oh my God. Like I always say, and this is true, time heals
It
all
does.
wounds. And so it's easy to forget how much it sucked at some points in time.
Brutal.
We both are recalling on our memories right now, and we're wrong. Like I know that we aren't remembering how bad it actually was, right?
Yep.
And so this idea of a partner that wants to be an employee, this is something to look out for. And I really feel like the working agreement is a good place to start this. And my advice is put in how the money's going to flow. If the word compensation ever enters the conversation about the working agreement, end it.
I guess I agree with that, but I have a comment too that I'll interject. Unless someone's is one of the partners or one of the people are actually operating the business,
Yes.
if they're having to trade time and their skills, then certainly that person should be compensated at some level. But they all, to your point, that it's nothing is guaranteed.
That's the part. The guarantee is the part.
So if you're making money and you're generating cash flow, the operating partner or whoever it is, partners, you could agree on some compensation. Okay, great.
But all equal partners need to be treated equally. I think maybe that's the place where if let's say the two of us are going to start a business, right? Just
I'm
for
ready.
the sake of argument. I know. Let's go. Yeah. God grant me the serenity not to start another business.
Yeah.
We would, And we both were going to work in the business. In fact, let's
Yes.
pretend we're starting a podcast, right?
Let's do it. Yes.
And so that we're going to split up the labor. We're both going to be hosts on the show, so we're going to do this together. I'll do the pre-production work of building the thing and mixing the episodes. You do the post-production work of putting the show out. For those of you who
Terrific.
haven't picked up on it, I literally just described what
a winner.
Shannon and I do here.
Yes.
Like it's exactly this. And so, okay, all right, great. Here's the working agreement. How's the money going to flow? And I say, well, we're both equal partners in this. We're both putting time in, but Shannon, you've had a little more success than me. You don't need the cash flow like I do.
Oh, that's
and
terrible.
so,
Run.
right. So,
Run away the way.
but we both agree that to make this business succeed, we both have to put time in, and I can't afford to put time in without being paid. So I want to make sure I get paid first and still maintain my 50% interest in this business. How does that sound to you?
If you're listening in the car or on your run or exercising, you can't see me shaking my head side to side vigorously, but that's the deal. These types of things never work. And I don't use the word never, I try not to use it, but that's a mindset and a mentality in the person that you are ready to launch something very important is not on the same page as you. And the framework for how the business will operate is different than what you're thinking, I guarantee it. Or if you're that person that's asking for the compensation, I'm no problem. I get it. We all have to live. But
I explained a very reasonable scenario, but it can't remain that way. If both partners are working equally in the business and have decided that they own an equal share of the business for whatever reasons, there's a lot of reasons to get there, and that would actually be a good thing to talk about in another episode is how to decide on that for a partnership. But if you are in that scenario, it is my advice and certainly my opinion that everyone needs to be paid equally and simultaneously, or at least commensurate with their shares. So let's say, we had three partners and one was 50% and you and I were each 25%. Well, if $100 comes in, we give the other person 50, we each take 25, right? Like it unless there is unless one of us is a silent partner and not actively working in the business, that's different. Correct.
And that should be spelled out.
And that's going to be spelled out. But if both people or if all partners are working, and that's why I said equal partners need to be treated equally.
I agree.
If everybody's working in the business, if one person needs to take money out, everybody needs to take money out.
And if if the business doesn't have the money, nobody gets it.
Nobody gets it. Correct.
You're not going in the hole because of one person's particular needs. That's a different discussion altogether.
Well, that's a loan.
That's a loan.
And if you're going to do that, and sometimes you might decide this is the right person for me to have in this business with me. I'm willing to do this.
Sure, of course.
Great. But my advice is figure out the repayment of that loan, how that's going to happen. And in the event and you might say, well, we'll repay it out of future earnings, right? That might be one way.
That's
Great.
fine. I agree that.
Put a time limit on it. And if the loan can't be repaid by future earnings by that time, give the partner the option to repay it out of their personal holdings, whatever that is. And if they can't, also describe how the shares in the company will shift to the person who didn't take the money out from the person who did. And it's essentially a purchase of the shares at a predefined price based on the day that the money was given out. And as long as you do that, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But my guess is many people who want to be paid like employees don't want to think of that as a loan or a purchase or somebody purchasing their shares from them because they want their shares.
Yeah, and I go back to the comment or the phrase I often say, all of these things as you're developing this idea and the working agreement and who's going to do what, these are all tests.
Oh, yeah.
because they are harbingers. I really like that word. Harbingers on the future and how it's going to look and how it's going to be handled when problems come up, because I guarantee you they're going to come up. And if your prospective quote partner is arguing a certain way or doesn't seem reasonable to you, that's how it's going to be in the future. And maybe you're okay with that. Maybe they're super talented and this, but
the devil,
that's fine. Like one of the things I really find distasteful is getting nickeled and dimed. And I'm a very generous person, and I'm willing to go all in, man. Okay, great. I'll do it. I'll pay for it. Let's get it going. I'll subscribe to it. I'll register it. I'll do it. Dave and I do this back and forth for decades.
Yep.
And just know that if you're in business with someone or considering being business with someone, and they're hitting you up for small little, oh, I need to get this and I need to get that. That's how it's going to be, because that's how they think. And if you're okay with that, that's cool.
Then that's okay.
Yes.
Right.
It's up to you.
Right.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. But, you know, the working agreement, it just solves so many of these problems, because it's like, remember, if you get married, there's the
prenup.
Wedding, prenup, or I was going to say wedding encounter or engaged encounter, they call it.
Yeah. Yep.
And before you get married, you sit down like for a weekend and answer all these tough questions about kids and how you're going to handle this and what happens with the money and how we handle finances. Very difficult questions. Well, the working agreement is kind of like engaged encounter for business, in the sense that, and we'll put a link in the show notes. We created a template and put it up on the website years ago. You should go get it and keep it, because then you don't have to have that uncomfortable discussion. You just drop this in their lap and say, okay, great. You fill this out the way you think it should look, and I'll fill out mine. And then you try to bring them together, and boy, you'll learn a lot.
Yes, but that you need to learn this.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's great. It's a great topic. And we'd love to hear your stories, how you've done this, what's worked, what hasn't. Feedback@businessbrain.show. Reach out. Let us know, man. We're in this together.
Yeah, absolutely. Feedback@businessbrain.show. Dissect it with us. Join the conversation. We'd love to have you here. Make sure you go check out shopify.com/businessbrain and gosquaredaway.com/contact. Keep living that charmed life. We'll see you on Friday. All right. We're out. We are between the episodes.
Yeah, we're between. We're going to get ready to record episode 534. We're going to talk about two free drinks in the Black Keys, so you'll definitely want to stick around for that. It's fascinating. There's no doubt that X has increased exposure.
Oh yeah.
To
for
live streams and video, because we're well beyond 10x what our normal viewers. I keep taking screenshots because I want to post about this after the show.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. I'm curious to how if you're watching this, I'm curious how it came across, if it was in your For You feed or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful. Hopefully I won't quit the app. I'll keep taking screenshots. Yeah. So stick around as Dave gets the stuff ready for me to handle. When we're done here, I'm going to go up and use one of the products in our tech stack. That's a fancy word of saying software that we use is Auphonic, where I'm going to describe it in layman's terms because I'm not a sound person like Dave is, but it kind of it makes it sound better, and it pushes it out to various platforms, and
it does all the uploads for us and everything too.
Uploads, yeah, it's great. It's easy to use, and I love it, and it's fantastic. So it's terrific. All right. And
I'm almost there.
Almost there? Good. And then we have the episode we just recorded is going to be out. It'll launch tomorrow on all the podcast apps. And then what we're going to record now in just a minute or two, a few minutes, will drop on Friday. And we used to do this show all at once. It was like 40 minutes to an hour. But what we found out, and I'm going to blame it on our short attention spans now, not on our fault, of course.
I'm sorry, what were you saying, Shannon? I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. Is that after a half hour or so, our audience would start to drop off, and we would be at, 60, 65%. I forget the fancy term they use, but engagement over that time.
65% completion
it?
rate. I
Yeah.
forget what Apple calls it, but
Yeah,
we
some
could
term.
see it. Yeah,
So
for sure.
we decided to, and again, we've been doing the show for 10 years, one of the
Yeah.
longest running podcasts in the universe, but there's
It is true.
a few longer.
Yeah.
And so we split it up. We said, hey, let's do 2 shows per week. And we meet and record those shows typically on Tuesdays. And then we said, for years, I was like, nobody wants to watch us talk. And my kids have always been like, yeah, Dad, you need to stream this. You need to push it to YouTube. I was like, no. But you know what? I was totally wrong. And so cutting the show in half, changing the name. It used to be called The Small Business Show. Now we call it Business Brain as we help our cumulative business brain, get better.
Yep.
And it's been awesome. And I'm thrilled to have 74 people up here watching the live
Streaming.
stream.
It's amazing.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Thanks
I'm
for hanging
ready.
out with us, folks.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I'm ready
Make
whenever
sure to
you
go
are,
to
Dave.
businessbrain.show and subscribe. Yeah. I'm ready to rock.
Awesome.
Hopefully I can be coherent as I tell this
Yes.
story for my 4th podcast of the day.
Okay,
All right.
it's going to be great.
It's going to be, I hope. Yep. Hopefully my throat doesn't just give up on me
Give
and
up,
be like,
lock up.
Dave, you're done.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Business Brain, episode 534 for Casual Friday. Talk like William Shatner. Day, March 22nd, 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take an idea or 4 and we dissect it, we analyze it, we meander through it such that we are apt to discover little nuggets of information that will help us each tune our business brains every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include GoSquaredAway.com/contact, where you can go hire a highly educated military spouse to become your trusted remote executive assistant, and Shopify.com/businessbrain. There's the sound.
Love it.
You can sign up for a $1 per month trial period there at Shopify.com/businessbrain. We'll talk more about all that in a little bit. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire on Casual Friday, I'm Dave Hamilton, and I promise I won't talk like William Shatner very much during this
That's a
episode.
crazy day. Here in California, I'm Shannon Jean, and I'm thrilled to be here for Casual Friday. I know you have a couple stories that you want to share with us from South by Southwest. And, we did a show about going to trade shows, conferences, and how important it is. And I'm just starting to get my wheels back under me to go out and start hitting the road again. And
Nice.
I'm happy to. I'm looking forward to hearing about your escapades at South by Southwest.
Well, I have a little lesson to share, and
Yeah.
then I have a story full of lessons to
Perfect.
share the second half here. So
Awesome.
before I left, I asked, how do you get that chip back on your shoulder? How do you
right.
get that drive, right?
Yep.
I
Great
saw
episode.
a movie about a documentary about Diane Warren. Now, you may or may not know her name, but you definitely know her work. She is a songwriter. She has written probably more top 10 songs than anyone else.
Is that right?
Yeah, Rhythm of the. I'm just going.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just mention a smattering so we can all kind of be on the same page. Rhythm of the Night by DeBarge.
Yeah.
Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Starship. If I Could Turn Back Time by
that's
Cher.
huge.
When
Yeah,
I See
yeah.
You Smile,
That's cool.
Bad English. Because You Love Me from Celine Dion. Unbreak My Heart, Tony Braxton. Aerosmith's I Don't Want to Miss a Thing was not
Awesome.
written by Aerosmith. It was written by her. Right. And this is I'm not even scratching the surface.
That's cool.
Okay. The name of the movie is Diane Warren Relentless. This woman is truly relentless. She has been writing songs since she was 12. She knew this is what she wanted to do. Her parents were split on this. Her dad was super loving and supportive, and her mom was like, when are you going to give up on that songwriting
job.
thing so that you can become a secretary?
Nice.
Not
Yeah, of
just
course.
get a job.
That's where the
but go-
future is.
Yeah, that's where the future is. Exactly. And she has worn that chip on her shoulder throughout her life. Her song catalog is estimated to be worth about $500 million.
I love it.
Somebody
Does she own it?
She does. That's the thing. Right. So she was signed to a contract, a publishing contract early on. Like she, like most songwriters, she went and beat down the doors of everybody, and she was in Los Angeles, so she beat down the doors. But she knew she wanted to be a songwriter. Like she would look at albums as a kid, and it would say, the name of the artist, the name of the song, and then below that in parentheses was, the very small print, the name of the songwriter. That's how 45s would be or whatever.
Yes.
She knew, I want to be that. I can do that. She's not a great singer. She doesn't have a good sense of time or anything, but she knows how to write songs. She knows how to play guitar and piano or whatever.
That's awesome.
She's like, I can do that. She would go to parties as a kid, in high school. She would bring her guitar with her. Her friends would be like hanging out, drinking illicitly or whatever, and like doing drugs or whatever. Sure. She would sit in the bathroom, in the bathtub, because she liked the acoustics of the room and just work on songs. Driven. That's very awesome. Driven. Got a publishing contract. This publishing contract was not in her favor.
Of course.
90% went to the other folks. Right. So she only kept 10. About 3 years into this 5-year deal, maybe less, she was being published and huge, and so all these people are coming to her and being like, we want to publish you instead. And she's like, well, I have this contract. And so she went and told the guy, I'm leaving the contract. And he's like, well, I'm going to sue you. She's like, but I've made you a ton of money already. Like, you are set for life. F you. Yeah. And the guy's like, that sounds great, but paper says what it says. I'm going to sue you. Yeah. And so what that meant, though, was that no one else could sign her. Otherwise, they would immediately become a party to the lawsuit. Yeah. Nobody wants to do that. Although it probably would have been a good business decision financially in the long run. So she couldn't get another publisher. And finally, somebody said to her, well, if you publish yourself, there's no other party to the lawsuit. It's still just you. She's like,
great
right.
Way to look at it.
People know who I am. Yeah. Fine. Screw it. I'll do that. They did wind up settling the lawsuit. I'm sure she paid this guy a fortune for nothing. Although, she signed the deal. It's how it works. I'm not saying that you should
got to start.
You got to start, right? And so she owns everything. She is her own publishing company. And people have asked her, like, you should, or suggested you should sell your catalog. And there's a good reason. There's a reason why artists sell their catalogs, right? Because as a songwriter, right, you get your royalties every year. But those are treated as normal income.
Oh,
so
not capital gains.
Not capital gains, because very it's just income. So if you can get, and people know, like, you can look at a song like, like the Celine Dion song, right? Yeah. Or the Cher song, Turn Back Time. Like, that song's going to make money for a long time. So your multiple, if you were to sell it, is probably somewhere between 10 and 30x, right? Because the rights are protected for... I don't know how old off the top of my head, I can't do the math, but they're protected for like 50 years. So it's not going to be a 2 or 3x deal. You're going to get a ton of money, and it's all capital gains, and you get it all up front.
That makes sense because I read about these artists like Stevie Nicks selling hers.
Yeah, Springsteen sold his
or whatever. And that totally makes sense because it's just such a better tax vehicle.
It's a better tax vehicle. But she was royalties. Like, they're my songs. Why would I want to sell them?
Yeah.
So, but she is, to this day, like, still just going and writing songs. I mean, she owns this huge catalog. Sort of. Like, watching this made me, in my head, I thought, be careful what you wish for, Dave, because her entire life is nothing but writing songs. Now, it was acknowledged in the movie. I don't know if she's officially diagnosed or not, but she's definitely somewhere in the Asperger's spectrum. She talked about it. Other people talked about it. She lives alone with her cat. She has no interest in a family of any kind, or even like having they talked to a guy who was probably her boyfriend for like 6 years. Like, she would sort of acknowledge this. He would sort of acknowledge it. But it's argued that she has never been in love, right? Like, so she's a different kind of human, and that's obviously okay. But it's like, all right, if that's what it takes to always have the chip on your shoulder, I want more of a balance than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't look at it that way. I think that chip is that gives you the power to just start over.
To start over, correct.
Not to just
yes.
drive yourself to the exclusion of all the other awesome
Right.
things we talk about living a charmed life here all the time.
Yes.
You're looking for the whole package.
Yep.
Business success, collaboration like Dave and I have had for 20 years.
Yeah.
Great friends, wonderful spouse, family, kids. That's what we're all looking for.
That's the charmed life.
Maybe not her, but
she has a financially charmed life. And actually, if you were to ask
she's
her,
probably very happy, right?
she's extremely happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cool. Good for her.
Right. For her. And it is good for her.
Yes.
Her life would not be good for me, although I wouldn't mind having control of a song catalog that's worth $500 million.
I would take that too.
Yeah, I'd take that deal. Yeah. But at what cost, right?
Yeah, that's
so that's what I learned from seeing that movie. It is a great movie. I have truly only scratched the surface of it. So when it comes out, make sure you go see it, because it's really a fascinating story. All right, folks, look, on this show, we take entrepreneurial puzzles and make them into pieces of cake, right? And speaking of easy choices, when you're on a plane, window seat or middle seat? Well, obviously, I'm going to take the aisle because I'm a control freak. And when it comes to selling online, there's an equally obvious pick. Our sponsor, Shopify. Imagine if your business journey was a game. Shopify is that power-up which helps you skip ahead to the good parts. From launching your online shop to unlocking the, oh my gosh, we need a bigger warehouse level, Shopify is your sidekick every step of the way. Selling shipping supplies or spreading the word about your productivity hacks, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. It's like having a Swiss Army knife for your business, but instead of a tiny, barely useful saw, you get an all-in-one e-commerce platform and an in-person POS that actually does the job. And here's where it gets really cool. Shopify turns window shoppers into buyers with a checkout that's smoother than your morning latte. Plus, with Shopify Magic, you've got an AI-powered assistant that's like having a marketing wizard in your pocket. Who needs a rabbit out of a hat when you have Shopify? With Shopify powering 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. and backing global success stories like Allbirds and Rothy's, it's not just a platform, it's a launchpad for success. And with their award-winning support, you're never flying solo. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/businessbrain, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/businessbrain now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/businessbrain, and our thanks to Shopify for sponsoring this episode. All right, those days when your to-do list is longer than a coffee shop's drink menu, and you're sitting there wondering if you need to clone yourself to tackle it all? Well, before you look into mad science, let me introduce you to a more practical solution. Our sponsor, Squared Away. Squared Away is like having a team of business ninjas at your disposal, except instead of throwing stars, they wield calendars, spreadsheets, and email inboxes. They're remote executive assistants who can leap tall to-do lists in a single bound thanks to being highly educated military spouses. Talk about trustworthiness and readiness for any challenge. Whether it's turning the chaos of event planning into a well-oiled machine, transforming bookkeeping from a nightmare into a dream, or even the Herculean task of booking a plane flight for your adventurous pooch, Squared Away has your back. And yes, they can even make a virtual baby shower feel like the social event of the season. So if you're ready to ditch the overwhelm and embrace the calm of well-managed tasks, contact Squared Away today to see how they can support your business. Just go to GoSquaredAway.com/contact. That's GoSquaredAway.com/contact. Unleash the power of productivity today. And our thanks to Squared Away for sponsoring this episode.
All right, I want to hear this free drink and bucket. But first, I got to do something kind of meta. I got to screenshot myself, screenshotting myself on X so I can post about this because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's great. Okay, tell your story.
So Thursday night at South by Southwest, I went to see the band The Black Keys.
Okay.
They were playing
awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I have a whole story on next week's Gig Gab about how I didn't understand this band until I saw them live, but that's not what this story is about.
Okay.
So, in fact, this story, most of it takes place before I ever got into the venue. So it was a relatively small venue. It was this venue called Mohawk in Austin. They say it holds 1,000 people. I don't necessarily believe that. I think it's less. But they've got this huge balcony that you can't see the stage from, so maybe it really does. I knew that a band like the Black Keys, even if it does hold 1,000 people, like that's more people. There's more people that want to see it than will fit in.
Yes.
And so I went out of my way to get what South by Southwest calls an express pass, which basically puts me at the front of
like Disneyland.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And there's a whole system for this, but it doesn't matter. I had it. So they were going to go on at 12:15 a.m. I had other events to go to that evening, and I had the express pass. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to get there an hour early at 11:15 because I know that it's going to be full.
Other
and I'm
people
going to
have the express pass.
Yes. Right. Well, the 15% of the venue has the express pass. That's how they do it. But the place is already going to be packed with people when I arrive at 11:15. I know that it's going to be like one out, one in, one out, one in. And that's fine. I'm willing to take my chances with the express pass for an hour. So fine. I get there. And there's a whole, there's a bunch of people in line, and there's multiple lines because there's a line for the people with this type of badge and this type of badge and the people without badges. And there's all these people hoping to get in. And I show up, and the kind of the head of South by Southwest coordination, there'll be two sets of staff at the venue. There's the venue staff, and it's up to them to check your ID and, manage you once you're inside.
Sure.
The South by Southwest staff essentially manage you when you're outside and tell the venue who's next. This line has prior. Right. Fine. So the South by Southwest person sees me and sees my badge and says, you're in that line over there. And I said, I have an express pass. And he says, okay. He says, well, you could use your express pass, or you could get in that line, which was maybe 30 people long.
All right.
And he's like, that line's moving. It's going to be okay. And I'm like, yeah, but I have an express pass.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't, like, if there were 3 people in the line, then I would just do that and not mess with it.
Of
but
course.
I'm like,
yeah,
no one, I don't see the line moving, and I have an express pass. He's like, okay, well, just stand at the front of this line. So the people that are in the line understand the deal. They're accepting of it. Fine. They grumble.
Yes.
And as I'm walking over, another guy shows up with an express pass. And so I went from being alone to being in a line, right? And they're like, okay, if you both have express passes, we'll put you over here. So now they've created this separate line for express passes. I'm standing there, and I'm expecting their things to flow because they said the line was moving. Things aren't moving. 10 minutes goes by, maybe 15 minutes goes by.
How's the other line? Same?
Nothing. No one is going in. Nothing, right? All the lines are growing. That's it. Some people coming out, very few, but some, And I was like, okay. So finally, I do what I do. I start making conversation. Absolutely. And this is where the lessons are, right? I make conversation with the guy from South by Southwest, but also the person managing the door who is an employee of the club, right? And so I'm just chit-chatting with him. And finally, it is told to me by these people. They're like, oh, yeah, the fire marshal's in there right now.
Oh.
I understand.
Everything.
Right. Okay, so this is good information to have because now I understand no matter what any of these people decide, until the fire marshal comes out,
calling the shots. Yeah.
They're not calling the shots right now. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I get it. And I said, they're still in there. He's like, yeah, he's been in here since before you got here. Okay, fine. So I don't give up on the chit chat though. Like the social engineering, and that term gets a bad rap. We're always doing social engineering. It's persuasion, but it's also, I'll call it reverse customer service. If I'm going to have to stand next to this person for a while, kind of staring at them, wondering when they're going to let me in, I want to make it a pleasant experience selfishly for me. It doesn't hurt if it winds up also being a pleasant experience for everybody else.
Correct.
Right. And I'm aware of these things, but I'm not, like, this wasn't me being Machiavellian
you're not
or anything.
trying to achieve something. You're just sitting there talking. You're by yourself or whatever. You start talking to people.
Just chit-chatting. Correct.
Yes,
and so I'm making conversation. I'm doing all the things. And, I have this skill. It is not what I would choose to do. I would be very happy being just alone and standing there. But I know that it's better if fine. So this is starting to become an exercise for me. We're transitioning from I'm here to see the band to, but first I'm here to kind of see what this dynamic becomes. Because what keeps happening is people keep coming up to either the person from South by Southwest who is organizing it or the door person. And these people, as they come up, are convinced that whatever they have to say or whatever credential they have will definitely get them in immediately. They don't know that there's a fire marshal in there, right? And it's fascinating watching some of these people because they come up, they're certain they're going to get in, and then when they are told, I'm sorry, no, they start pleading their case, and none of them are polite about it.
Wow. See,
and it's
that's the opposite end of the spectrum there.
It's like, well, yeah, but I didn't intend for it to be the opposite end. Like, they chose this.
Yes.
But what happens is as each one of these people comes and is turned away in a huff, a lot of them are like, no, I deserve to be here, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, like, what was it? Now, all they are doing is making me look even better. And I haven't changed. Cool. I'm just being Dave, right?
Right.
So a bartender comes out at one point and he's just chit-chatting. He's on his break. He's chit-chatting with the door guy. And since we're all standing right there, he winds up chit-chatting with me. Right. And he asked me, he's like, hey, do you need water or anything? I'm like, no, I'm good.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then he goes back in to get like water or whatever for the door guy. And he comes back out. And then he asked me, do you need water? Or does anybody on your staff need water? And at this point, I have to immediately shut down any notion that I am in a position of authority here.
Yeah, I got it.
Because I don't want it to, like, them to be mistaken and let me perpetuate this. It's going to backfire, right? Yeah, I don't have authority. Yeah. So I say, whoa, nope, I'm just a guy. I'm nobody here, And he's like, oh, seriously? He's like, you're like so nice and you're like chit-chatting and helping out and like, I'm like, well, I'm just standing here, and the door guy turns to the bartender and says, yeah, but he is definitely getting in for this show.
Nice.
And I'm like, and the bartender says, yeah, you are. And he's like, when you come in, you visit me at this specific bar. He's like, come say hi. He's like, you deserve this. I'm like, okay.
That's killer.
I don't deserve anything, but I'm glad you believe that I do.
Yeah.
Like, this is great. And I don't usually even drink alcohol when I go see shows anyway. I think we talked about that on a recent episode. Sure. Just because I like to remember the shows and, I like to have my wits about me. And it's not a judgment thing. This is just me. And
I feel judged.
Okay, good. It's fine. It's totally fine. I love playing for people that drink. It's how I make money sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is no judgment. It's just a personal preference. And so, plus it keeps me from having to pee all the time, which is helpful. And so there's this one guy that comes up and he starts saying how he has like a press badge and very important. And he's like, I'm working, and he starts, and the guy's like, I still can't let you in. The fire marshal's still in there. And he says, well, yeah, but I know you're doing your job. I'm doing my job. And the guy's like, no. And he said, but I'm press and I'm standing right there.
Yeah.
And I also have a badge that says press on it from South by Southwest, like the same one he does.
Right.
And so I said, same. I just kind of waved and it was like, yeah, same. And just to show him, like, I'm stuck out here
just
too.
Hanging out.
Yep. Like, we're just doing the thing, trying to kind of de-escalate a little because this guy's getting to be a little pushy. And he looks at me exasperated, like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I also have a press badge and an express pass, and I've been waiting here for now 45 minutes. Whatever. And the guy doesn't even say anything to me. He turns away from me and just like dismisses me with a wave of his hand.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
I don't care.
Yeah.
But you know who cared about that? The door guy. Yep. And so he turns to me and he's like, you are definitely getting in before that guy. He's like, if it's up to me, that guy's never getting in. And it's just fascinating watching this because we all find ourselves in the position of that guy, right?
Of course.
The guy with his press badge showing up thinking, I'm definitely, like, I deserve to be in there. I'm working, whether he was or not. I know he wasn't because I was in and he did wind up getting in. And I saw him and he was spending more time like talking to his friends and showing people that he was there than even watching the show and covering the concert. And so finally the fire marshal leaves, and then but the door guy still needs to get approval from his boss that he can now let people in. It's not the fire marshal even told the door guy, like, you're good for 1 in, 1 out. And he's like,
that's cool.
Okay, but you don't sign my check, so I gotta, fine. So that took another 25 minutes because there was a problem up in the balcony that the club wanted to get sorted out before they started letting people in. So finally, I get in about 2 songs into this probably 12-song show or whatever. Yep. And getting in meant was, they checked my ID, they let me into the club.
Yep.
And walking about 15 feet from where I was originally standing in the door line to where the mass of people was that were watching the band. Like, it was not very far, but I could now see the band. I could hear the band from outside. I could see them. And so I stood there for like a minute or two, and then I thought, they don't want us. I don't want them seeing me standing here kind of overflowing out of the club.
Yeah, that's smart.
I'm like, that bartender said to go visit him. I'm gonna let the universe help me here. So I went, visited the bartender. The bartender worked this bar that faced the stage and had like maybe 3 people deep at it. And it was all packed with people watching the band. But I'm like, well, I'm going to the bar to get a drink, so they have to let me through.
Yes.
So they did. They were a little grumbly about it, but they were like, whatever. It's what you got to do.
Trying to get a drink. Yeah.
Yeah. So I go up to the bar. Bartender sees me, hands me a free drink. Great. I said, I offered to pay him for it. He was like, there's no way you're paying for this drink. I'm like, okay, cool.
Nice.
So I turn around and I can see over the people 3 deep in front of me, that like where the band is and stuff. And it's great. I'm watching the band. But of course, there's always movement because the bar's there. So it didn't take but 1 song for me to now be kind of at the front of this section of people. And I get a great view of the band and it's great. It's going along really well. So that's the Black Keys and 1 free drink. The guy next to me is this drunk English guy, but he was friendly. He would talk only in between songs. He wasn't trying to talk to me in the middle of songs. So it's like totally fine. He was calm. He was happy drunk. No problem. He leaves halfway through the show to go get a drink for him and his friend. I'm like, he's the devil I know. I want him back as my neighbor here. Yeah. So I widen my stance in hopes of keeping his space for me,
Sure.
And sure enough, he came back pretty quickly. And I made a motion like, here's your space. Like, you're good to go. And he's like, oh, my God, thank you. And he hands a drink to his friend. And he says, what are you drinking?
Nice. That's great.
He leaves again. He goes back. He gets me a tequila and soda, which took him 3 times as long as it did to get the other 2 drinks for whatever reason, just the flow of the bar. Came back. That was my second free drink. And, it was all just being nice to people and thinking about what would be nice for them in that moment.
But it's underrated, but you're also making it nice for yourself, right?
Exactly.
You're doing it from your own self-interest, but
it
benefits the people around you as well. I love it. I think
that's exactly right. And that's the lesson. It's like killer. You never know. And I thought about the people that came up, like assuming they would get in. You don't know what someone's been through. You can assume what they've been through,
right.
But you don't know. And why act entitled? If you feel like your credentials are enough to get you in, if I feel like my credentials are enough to get me in, I act unentitled.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and we need more of that.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I don't know if this pass is enough to get in right now. Oh my gosh, yes, of course. Come in, Mr. Hamilton. But it doesn't hurt to just play it down.
Yeah, just be cool and be friendly and understand their work. And like I said, especially seems like now the world is kind of full of uptight and entitled people.
Yes.
And this is your opportunity just to chill out a bit and put yourself in their position and be like, hey, how do we do this? What,
How do you want me to do this?
Figure it out together.
Yes.
And you do. You get that extra nod. Sometimes a $100 bill makes it even nicer, but just being cool and not a jerk gets you far.
I wrote down notes about this after this event happened because I thought it would be a good thing to talk about on the show because as a business owner, these things, like this is how you propel your business forward, especially when you're starting out, right? And one of the things I wrote was all of this because I treated them like they were the most important people in every interaction.
I love it. I always tell people, treat your suppliers like they're your customers.
Yep.
And you will have an amazing experience because everyone else treats them like garbage. And they yell at them, they blame them for their problems. So if you flip the script, like Charlie Munger always says, invert.
Yeah.
If you treat them great, they will reciprocate to you, give you the benefit of the doubt, make your life better. And it's a big secret that people don't tend to do. So I'm glad you shared that story because there's a lot of powerful lessons in it. Seems very simple, but hardly anybody does it.
Hardly anybody does it. I know. It's crazy to me. And that's what really hit me as I was watching the band with my second free drink. I was like, all of this is just because I was nice to everybody. I mean,
that's great.
I also had the credentials to get in. I didn't talk myself in from zero. Right?
Yeah, of course. You had a leg up on it. Yeah.
I did come in with a leg up. But okay, that lots of other people showed up with legs up and didn't make it in. Like there were definitely people that showed up and like I heard them plead their case and it was like crap. And I turned to the guy behind me. I'm like, we are no longer numbers 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And it turns out we were numbers.
Cool.
We were actually numbers 3 and 4, but I thought we were numbers like 12 and 13. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
that's great.
But everybody else, you make friends with the right people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same goes, like you said, in your business. I mean, I would love to hear how do you use this power? How do we brand this? What term do we come up with that we can talk about this over and over? I don't know it yet, but I'm going to think about it.
Same.
Or if you want to come up with it, feedback at businessbrain.show. Tell us your story, share your story. If you want to talk about your business, send us an email. And we'll talk about maybe having you on the show and share your story and help us all grow our collective business brain.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Feedback at businessbrain.show is where you're going to send that. Make sure you check out GoSquaredAway.com/contact and Shopify.com/businessbrain. You have a nice weekend. I'm going to rest my voice and keep having a charmed life, folks. We'll see you next week. And we're out. 132.
Awesome. See? I told you. I got the message. X is definitely promoting live
totally
streaming
right
and
about
video.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. I thought it was last week from your interaction.
I did too until I did Mac Geek Gab, and it was like, aha.
Yeah. And we had like 50 and now, 133 listeners. So thank you for listening and watching this as we record these 2 episodes. Like I said earlier, the first episode we recorded will come out tomorrow. It pushes out on every podcast platform you can imagine or businessbrain.show.
Yep.
If you're up on X, which where most of these folks are, we push it out up there. And the episode we just recorded, 2 free drinks and the Black Keys will come out on Friday, which is our casual Friday. So thank you everybody for listening.
Craziness.
And watching.
See ya.
Streaming. See you later.
Later.